If I may have everyone's attention, please. We're about to begin our service, so I will ask everyone to please find a seat. I'm also going to ask that everyone please take a moment to turn your cell phones to their silent mode before we begin. We will begin our services today with the rendering of military honors.
The act of kriya, or the act of tearing, is as old as biblical times. Back then, when a loved one died, they would rent their clothing and pour ash upon their head. The act has come forward as a black ribbon a mourner wears on their lapel to let family and friends know that there's been a death in the family and to approach them with more love and sympathy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, Lord our God, judge of truth.
Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo esri Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Ose shamayim va'aretz Ezri me'im Adonai Ose shamayim va'aretz.
The psalmist in those words wrote long ago, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming now and forever. Our writings teach us, what is the measure of a man? His measure is the kind words people say when he isn't there, and the memories he creates that stay indelible in the minds of all who knew him. What is the measure of a man? It is the amount of love he leaves in people's hearts and the laughter he leaves upon people's lips. It is the length of time he's remembered, his good deeds and his kind words. Measured in the length of years, stories of his loving kindness get told by loved ones and friends alike. Jerry Miller lived an incredible 98 years and 7 months. Forget the 98.5, 98 years and 7 months. Surrounded by the people he loved most, his family and friends as much as possible. Sadly, his sister, Merrill Judd, died just days after Jerry died. And Jerry died 18 months to the day after his beloved Michael died. Jerry held the moment surrounded by all of you closest to his heart. He always lived life to its fullest, taking those he loved most along for the adventure, celebrating life together the only way he knew how, to its fullest. Jerry did his best to leave you with as many memories as possible, to sustain you in his absence. Son and daughter of the late Joseph and Mary, both of blessed memory. Jerry was husband of Shirley for over 70 years, brother of Merrill of blessed memory, who as a single parent after her husband Donald died, raised Carrie and James of blessed memory. Jerry was the father of Michael of blessed memory and his wife Lisa, Jeffrey and Mihaela, proud grandpa of Rebecca and her fiance Nico, and Sarah, beloved uncle and cousin and friend to so many. We are blessed with the lives we share. May Merrill and Jerry's memories always be a blessing as we celebrate who they were and all they added to our lives. A poet wrote, "Oh, the years have passed and my eyes have seen so much. Time has flowed slowly and quickly, the eternal river that it is. I've watched so many of you go from young to old and wondered how you all could grow so while I remained so young within this old frame, harboring all of my precious memories and thoughts within me. Gold are the memories of laughter and celebrations. Diamonds are those moments I watched you all flourish and help bring new life into this world. Beyond precious remain those instants, surrounded by all of your noise and tussle as we lived life to the very edge of amazement. You've allowed me to paint my blessings in colors of brightness and merriment. Shed no tears for my life lived so well. Just remember me with a smile at all we shared. The Byrds made popular these ancient words of Ecclesiastes when they sang that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. And now is the time we speak of Jerry's incredible life, as I invite up his son Jeffrey to bring Sarah by way of phone, hopefully, and to have also a few words for his father.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Sarah, this is your dad speaking, about to speak.
Hi.
Love you, kiddo. All right, Sarah Barra, we had an honor guard for Grandpa.
Yeah, I can watch.
I know, but it's Sarah, at 67, I feel like I need to go out and join the military because it was so beautiful, Mayla. I'm gonna go first. All right. Anyhow, Grandpa, as we're driving over here to the temple, my mother said, "What a beautiful day." And my dad would say, "What a beautiful day. What a great night. What a great time for a motorcycle ride." And he would have taken full advantage of it. He might have attended a funeral first, but he would have gone for a bike ride, certainly after that. I'm going to read something that, of all places, I found on Pinterest. Sarah, Pinterest. And with a little bit of research, I found out that this was something, it's a poem. A poem, it's called The Dash, some of you may have heard it. It's by Linda Ellis. And with a little bit of research, I found out that this particular poem was a favorite of Senator Bob Dole. Bob Dole died at age 98 in 2021. And my dad died at age 98 in 2024. This is read at Bob Dole's funeral, and it was carried by Senator Dole later in his life, and he would read it as part of his speeches wherever he spoke. So it's called The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth. And now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters most is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things that you'd like to change? If you never know how much time is left, that can still be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that the special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? Again, this is by Linda Ellis. Sarah is now, we're going to attempt for Sarah to read some recollections of her time with her grandfather of 21 years, and I'm so grateful she had 21 years with Grandpa. Okay, Sarah, please go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. One of the earliest memories I have of
You
my
have to speak
grandpa
up,
is
sweetie.
him
You'll have to
telling-
speak up. And slow down.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, I can hear you. Speak up and slow down, though. Go ahead.
Can I read?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the earliest memories I have of my grandpa is him telling me that hippopotamuses eat tapioca. It sounds silly, and I honestly don't even know if it's true, but it's something that stuck with me forever. The best way to describe my dog, Jerrald Grandpa, is one of a kind. How many people do you know who give out presents on their birthday? And no, these aren't just any gifts. These were highly creative and carefully thought out mementos, oftentimes the best book or it has to offer, or a 10-year-old academic calendar from Purdue. My dog, my dog appreciated the little things in life, whether it was flipping through photo albums, because pictures just can't be appreciated the same on a phone, making yearly holiday cards with only the most memorable photos, blasting classical music, sitting on the lawn just to people watch, going to the bank every Saturday solely to read the paper, eat cookies, and socialize, or build a multi-thousand-piece Lego set the DIY way because the instructions are just a suggestion anyway. As you know, he also loved to travel, in particular when the mode of transportation had two wheels. Growing up hearing about Uncle Jer's great bicycle and motorcycle adventures, it's safe to say that a bit of his wanderlust energy rubbed off on me. I can even remember when I went to Alaska, he gave me a pre-written and stamped postcard to simply be mailed back to him from Juneau. That's my grandpa for you. Everyone in his high school yearbook called him a swell guy, and it's safe to say he lived up to the title. I'm forever grateful that I had my grandpa in my life for as long as I did. Love you lots and rest easy, dog.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it very much. Okay, sweetie. Thank you for the audio.
I invite up Jerry's other granddaughter, Rebecca, to speak about him.
Sarah and I really should have shared because there's a lot of similar things in our eulogies. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca, and we're here today to honor the extraordinary, unique life of my grandpa. My grandpa once told me that he always felt like I understood him because I was a smart, mouthy broad, like all of his favorite people. So I'm going to do my best to live up to that legacy today. It's been said that people die twice, once when you stop breathing, and a second when someone says your name for the last time. Knowing this, all of us can rest assured that my grandpa won't actually die anytime soon, because anyone who ever met him has a story about him. Every single person who has reached out to me over the last few weeks has said some variation of, he was one of a kind, he was unique, he was a real character. And I know every person who said that knows deep down that that was an understatement. My grandpa was unique in so many ways. He's the only person I know who would give gifts for his birthday, but in the most inconvenient and funniest ways possible. I remember once he gave my dad a calculator and a small screwdriver, and when my dad picked it up, the calculator was rattling. He used the small screwdriver to take the back off the calculator and found a check, and of course the spare change from buying the calculator and the screwdriver at the resale shop. He loved sending holiday cards, as I'm sure most people in this room know. He loved getting cards back, but hated getting cards that we paid for, so we'd always have to cross the price off of any Hallmark card before giving it to him. He'd always give us cards that he found for free somewhere that were always inappropriate for the situation. Almost every year on my birthday, which is in July, I would get a Rosh Hashanah card, and there'd always be some reference to how it was sort of a Happy New Year, but really just for me. He'd always, of course, include a math problem that showed exactly how many times older he was than me, 2.86 times at last count. He was an absolutely outstanding letter writer, and he really had a way with words. We were briefly pen pals when I was in college, and any random missive I sent him was replied to with pages of stories, most from his days spent traveling. When I moved to San Francisco, he sent a long card detailing how he once bicycled from the airport to his high school reunion in Woodside, California, 20 miles down the 101, which for those of you who haven't been to San Francisco is a major highway. He said he wouldn't recommend it for obvious reasons. He motorcycled for long past the time he maintained a motorcycle license because he wouldn't let a silly thing like state licensing stop him from doing what he wanted. He went to so many Peoria high school reunions and traveled all over the country to do so. On the way, he would also just show up at family and friends' front doors with no warning, hands still shaking from the bike handles as he expected to be let in for a hot meal and a bed for the night. Every trip he took came with reels and reels of slides to show us, which I can only imagine how long they took him to take, given how long it took him to take a single photo of our family at a restaurant. The slides also took a ridiculously long time to go through because he would tell us every detail of any person he met along the way. He got to know so many people in ways that only he could have. Like I said, everyone who's ever met him has a story. There are his bank teller friends, met through his tours of the several banks in Highland Park he took every weekend so that he could read the newspaper section by section while enjoying the free treats set out for bank customers, even if he didn't technically bank there. There's the friends at Ameritrade, where he would sit for a few hours and watch the stock ticker go by while making conversation. There's the people who got to know him at the hospital cafeteria, where he'd often go just because he really liked the soup and because it was a good price. Finding the best deal on something was always very important to my grandpa, and he would proudly ask for the World War II veteran senior citizen discount anywhere he went. His life was clearly colored by growing up during the Great Depression, as anyone who was lectured about not taking more food than they could eat would know. This childhood couldn't have been easy, but one of his favorite things about growing up during this time is the after-school treat my great-grandmother would make for him, his sister Merle, and his cousin Jimmy, which is white bread with butter and sugar. He told me several times that it was the best snack he knew. I also remember both him and Merle, who passed away just 5 days after my grandpa, making lemonade from the lemon wedges and sugar packets on the table at a restaurant. I'll remember so much about my grandpa, from his lifelong love of learning to his voracious reading. Whenever I talked to him, he was always reading several things at a time, including manuals for appliances that he no longer possessed, just because he was curious about how they worked. He told me years ago that he would never get on the internet because he would never be able to stop asking it questions or to stop reading every website. And since I think everyone in this room knows how stubborn he was, you can rest assured he never did. Though it didn't stop him from asking me to Google things for him every now and then. I'll remember so much about my grandpa, but most of all, I'll remember how evident it was that he loved his family. He wasn't always the best at expressing it, but the way his mood would change the second Sarah or I came into the room made us always feel so loved. He could spend hours telling us stories or teaching us the importance of listening to classical radio or just listening to us talk. He, of course, would make his snarky comments or joke about what Sarah had done to her hands anytime she painted her nails. But it didn't stop him from once letting us paint each of his nails a different color while sitting at a restaurant table. With us, he was the softest, funniest version of himself, and I'll miss it so much. So here's to a life well lived, and to the treasure trove of memories that make us smile. And here's to the man who never paid full price for anything, always had a joke ready, and who always had a story for every situation. May his legacy of living life to the fullest continue to inspire us, and may his name be spoken for generations to come.
On this day, we think of the lives of both Jerry and his sister Merle. Merle did what she needed to do as a single mom. She began working for Hilton Hotels and became the catering manager, a job she really enjoyed. Merle was always in the background of Jerry's being so out there and outgoing. Jerry was born in Chicago and grew up in Peoria with his parents, Mary and Joseph, and his sister. He graduated from Peoria High School and loved returning to his high school reunions most of his life. He loved riding his motorcycle to his reunions, even when they were all the way across the country in California. After Jerry graduated from high school, he entered the United States Navy and was trained at Great Lakes in their V-12 program, having been stationed in Texas and San Francisco. Rebecca, you spoke about how your grandpa took the officer's exam during high school. His cousin Jimmy enlisted in the Army, and Jerry enlisted in the Navy. Jimmy died in Okinawa, and this greatly affected Jerry his entire life. The loss of his cousin, Jimmy Geller, who was more of a brother than a cousin, was a piece of Jerry that always stayed with him. In 2010, when Jerry went on his honor flight, it just meant so much to him. And Michael, of blessed memory, loved working with the Chicago Honor Flight Organization until he became too sick to continue. Shirley, you spoke about when you first met Jerry. You grew up in Galesburg, Illinois, and met Jackie Cooper, Jerry's first cousin. You met Jerry through Jackie, and sometime later you were walking down Wacker after work and saw Jerry and said, "Aren't you Jerry Miller?" You two spoke by the river for a while, and he asked you out. You kept seeing each other and dated for 2 to 3 years until you got married in 1953, honeymooning in Nassau. You loved that he was very different and such a big joker. He did his own thing, his own way. You told me you just felt there was something there. From the beginning, you thought he was smart, and you two could talk about anything. He was so sharp. He had been working with Granite City Steel and got a job in Chicago, working for several companies until he started with Continental Electric, retiring in 1994. Jerry worked on the Metropolitan Jail, Comiskey Park, and the IBM building. When he worked in the IBM building, they offered him IBM stock or cash to work on the project. And from that point, Jerry gained his interest in stocks for the rest of his life. He enjoyed retirement and the nice party they threw him. Retirement gave him more time for his motorcycle trips, and having driven most of his life since taking up motorcycles in 1969-70. And like I said, at 81 years old, Jerry drove out to California for that 63rd high school reunion. They loved each other so much, at a point after the 50th, they just started doing them every year. Jerry loved becoming a father and watching Michael and Jeffrey grow into the adults they became. As a family, you all traveled across the country during summer vacations, to the World's Fair to see the Grand Canyon. He loved when Lisa and Mihaela became part of the family. Lisa, you talked about when you moved here, you were prepared to meet Jerry, if anyone can really be prepared to meet Jerry. You became his Boston girl. He would always greet you, "Hey, Lisa." You loved how Jerry always made a point when riding his motorcycle out east to visit your parents in Sharon, Massachusetts. He would pitch his tent in the backyard and spend some time with them each trip. And Jeff, you spoke about how your dad was the reason you met Mihaela when you were biking through Europe and staying at a hotel in Sweden. Mihaela, you were working at their hotel and couldn't believe how Jerry could possibly eat so much. You thought you would have to run to the market to ensure the hotel didn't run out of food. But of course, Jerry would also complain about how much food was always wasted on a buffet. Mihaela, Jerry always called you the new girl, even decades later. And when you cared for him and Shirley during the pandemic, he called you Meals on Wheels. Jeff, you talked about biking through much of the world with your dad. Europe, Ireland, you two crossed Wisconsin and biked around Lake Michigan. You traveled Northern Europe in 1995, Helsinki, Finland, Sweden, and spent 2 weeks in Norway. You loved your dad's adventurous spirit, but couldn't believe he wrote down the cost of everything on every trip down to the last penny. You also talked about your trip where you went on a clipper ship off the coast of Maine. Jerry really loved it when you all made him a grandfather. When Rebecca and Sarah came into this world, Jerry had never thought life could get that much better. He could be in the worst mood, and when a granddaughter walked in, he would change his mood immediately and become Mr. Charm. Rebecca, you remarked how your grandpa was just the softest person with you and Sarah. He just adored you both so much from beginning to end. Mihaela, you described how Jerry wanted to babysit for Sarah so badly when she was only 2 months old. He came to the house and sat on the couch watching TV while holding the baby, and Sarah slid from his shoulder to his chest to his tummy as he fell asleep on duty. Nico, he loved when you became part of the family and wishes he could have made it to your wedding. You talked about how much you liked Jerry's sense of humor. Jeff, you loved your dad's quote. Whenever you needed to find something in your parents' home, Jerry would quip, "Everything is somewhere." A truth that really explains everything, except for the fact that you couldn't find what you were looking for. Jerry was one of a kind. Family was everything to him. He loved exploring the world with you all and seeing things for the first time together. He was unnerved as Jeffrey and Michael both fought cancer and devastated when Michael died 18 months ago. Jerry wanted to see it all, but never wanted to see anyone close to him suffer. He shared his brilliance, his humor, his love, and his laughter with you all. He was loved and considered family by so many of his friends and yours. Jerry made friends wherever he went. You all are the people that mattered most in the world to Jerry. In living, we all try to make the world a better place. Jerry surely succeeded. We try to raise children that better the world in hopes they bring more children into the world. Jerry Miller and Merle Judd succeeded. You are all Jerry and Merle's legacy. They love sharing their lives with you all. May you always remember the best of Jerry and Merle and their strength and health, and may their memories always be a blessing, as they were such a blessing in all of your lives. Merritt Malloy wrote, "When I die, give what's left me away to children and old men that might wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother and sister walking the street beside you. When you need me, put your arm around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not on your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away." We continue together reading the 23rd Psalm in our pamphlets. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We rise for Elmle Rachamim, our memorial prayer.
El mele rachamim shochen bamromim. Hamse menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina. Im kedoshim utahorim kezohar harakia mashirim. Et nishmat Yaakov ben Yosef uMiriam shehalach leolamo. Baal harachamim yastirehu beseter kanafav leolamim. Veitzror bitzror hachayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato, ve'anuach beshalom al mishkavo, ve'nomar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Jerry Miller and Merle Judd, children of Joseph and Mary, siblings who have entered eternity. O God of mercy, let them find refuge in your eternal presence in the shadow of your wings, and let their souls be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is their inheritance. May they rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We continue in our pamphlets with the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Bialma divrach ratei v'yamlich malchotei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Israel, Ba'agalav Zman Kariv Vimaru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavarach Le'olam Olamei Almaya. Yitbarach Vishtabach Vitpa'ar Vitromam Vitnase. Vitadar Vitale Vitalal Shemed Kurusha Barichu. Le'ela Min Kol Berchata Vishirata. Tushbechata Venechemata. Da'amiran Be'oma Vimaru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Vimaru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Huya Aseh Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Vimaru. Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all the bereaved among us as we say together. Amen. You may be seated.
Oseh Shalom Bimromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imeru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imeru. Amen.
Our services here today are now concluded. The family will be returning to the Miller residence at 1439 Sherwood Road in Highland Park, where they will receive calls of condolence today. Immediately upon exiting the sanctuary, please join the family at their home until 7 p.m., and then again Monday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Minion services will be at 4 p.m. At this time, I'll ask for everyone to please rise and stand in place as we escort the family from the sanctuary to their cars. 4:30 p.m. for the minion service. Okay. We are asking that everyone please go directly to your cars. The facility does have another function that they need to set up for this evening, so we are asking everyone please go directly to your vehicles. We're going to escort the family now. Thank you. Thank you, guys.